On this week's NESN Patriots podcast, we will discuss the Josh Gordon trade. We will talk about what we learned from the Patriots' Week 2 loss to the Jaguars, and we will preview Patriots' upcoming matchup against Matt Patricia and the Detroit Lions. Hello and welcome to the NESN Patriots podcast. I am Doug Kai, joined as always by Zach Cox. Zach, how are you doing?
Not too bad, Doug. I'm actually kind of chilly right now because we are literally sitting on the field at Gillette Stadium recording this podcast because our usual studio space is occupied at the moment. So we're trying out something new. But I guess I can't complain because we were down in Jacksonville this past weekend and it was probably the hottest I've ever been in my entire life. It was not good.
It was really hot. It was like, 97 degrees, bunch of humidity. It didn't help that, this is like some classic Big J journalist complaining, but pretty sure Jacksonville didn't have air conditioning in the press box, which, it's Florida. You'd think that they would have thought about that at some point while the team existed, but
it was pretty
sweaty.
I thought about complaining about that on Twitter, but I thought that wouldn't have been the best idea.
It would have been like a Ben Volen waiting for the Super Bowl stadium to open type tweet. Yeah, probably. That probably would not have been in your best interest. But we will get to that Jaguars game in a second. But I think we should start off with the biggest news of the week, which is the fact that the Patriots acquired Josh Gordon in a trade with the Cleveland Browns. This is the Patriots' third time trading with the Browns since last season ended. They've acquired Danny Shelton, Jason McCourty, and now Josh Gordon. He was on the practice field wearing number 10. He was on a Patriots roster. Bill Belichick has refused to acknowledge this signing up to this point, but I think we can safely say the trade has been finalized since I saw with my own eyes Josh Gordon catching passes in a Patriots uniform.
Yes, we cannot say for certainty how long Josh Gordon will be on the Patriots, which I'm sure we'll get to in a minute. But yes, I can confirm via eyesight that he is actually here wearing a Patriots uniform, and we expect him to be on the field this Sunday in Detroit.
I love this trade, and I think it's so funny that people get fired up in a negative fashion about the trade, like, oh, the Patriots are desperate. What are they doing getting Josh Gordon? It's like, who cares? It's a 5th-round pick. They might get a 7th back. Even if they don't, who cares?
They hate 5th-round picks anyway. Probably This pick was almost certainly going to be traded at some point.
Yeah, at some point for someone else. I mean, they traded a 5th-round pick for Cassius Marsh before. So, whatever. Even if he's gone in a day, you don't get players like Josh Gordon for 5th-round picks. He's super talented. No one wants to make the Randy Moss comparisons, but, in 2013, he was Randy Moss, and he looked really good last year in 5 games. Obviously, there's a lot of issues there. He's got mental health issues, and that's led to some drug issues. He's been suspended for the majority of his career. But if this even works for a few games, then it's worth the 5th-round pick because he's a dominant big receiver that Tom Brady hasn't had since he had Randy Moss.
Yeah, it's really a kind of a no-lose situation for the Patriots. I guess the only concern, I guess you could say, is he comes and completely destroys the locker room and everything comes apart at the seams. I'm not expecting that to happen. If he comes and he's any sort of trouble whatsoever, the Patriots can cut him, and it's no skin off their back. They've already done that with 5 different wide receivers since the season began 2 or 3 weeks ago. And like you said, this is back in 2013. Josh Gordon was legitimately one of the best 2, 3, 4 wide receivers in the entire NFL. He had a 4-game stretch where he had, I think, 780 receiving yards, including a game right here on this field where he destroyed Aqib Talib, and that was really at the height of Aqib Talib's Patriots tenure. So this is a very, very talented player. Obviously, he does have a lot of off-the-field stuff going on. There's been a lot of things that have kept him from playing in actual games. Since that 2013 season, he's been suspended for 2 complete seasons, and he's missed 2 complete seasons. There's a combination of suspensions and kind of willing him checking himself into rehab and other stuff like that. But he's played in 11 games since that 2013 season. So it's hard to expect him to be 2013 Josh Gordon now in 2018. But the Patriots really have nothing to lose with this. It's a win-win situation.
And he was really good last year. He played in 5 games last year.
With DeShone
Kizer. And if you extrapolate the 5 games that he played into a 16-game season, he would have caught almost 60 balls and had over 1,000 yards. He only had one touchdown reception, but I mean, it was Deshaun Kaiser. There was a lot of things working against him that season. He was targeted 40 times and only 19 of those passes were catchable or deemed catchable by Pro Football Focus. So he had one drop on 40 targets. I don't know. I try not to get too high about this signing, but it's Josh Gordon. Like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch the guy. It's going to be fun to see what happens. And honestly, like, for all the Patriots fans who are super negative about this, it's a guy that you should root for too. I mean, he's had some issues in his life. He's had some issues throughout his entire life. I was talking to someone who worked with him on the Browns, and he's got some accountability issues. There's a lot of stuff going on. These have been issues throughout his whole life. And if he can pull it back together through this trade, through a change of scenery, he's never been in the NFL on a team that's not the Browns. I don't know. There's a chance, and it's something to root for him.
Yeah, we always talk about how the Browns are a bit of a mess and have been a bit of a mess for the last decade, 2 decades. I mean, there's really not a less secure NFL franchise than the Browns. So who knows? I mean, we'll find out whether Josh Gordon being in a different situation, in a different environment, can allow him to not have that off-the-field stuff affect him and prevent him from being the player that he can be. Maybe that won't be the case, and maybe it won't work out here, but he seems to be in a pretty good situation with the kind of infrastructure that the Patriots have here. And I did love that the Patriots are playing the Detroit Lions this weekend, which we'll get into a lot more later. But within the first hour or two after the trade was announced, there was a story on DetroitFreePress.com titled "How will the Lions stop Josh Gordon without Darius Slay?" So the Lions are already worried about this signing, and this was 10 hours before we even knew for sure that he was on the actual team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, that would be huge if Darius Slay. He has got a concussion, right?
Yes.
So if he can't play, that would obviously be a very big deal for the Lions. We've kind of, before we move on, we've gone through the worst case scenario with Gordon, which would be that he's cut after a game or something, cut on Friday. The best case scenario, though, once Julian Edelman comes back in this offense, I mean, if he plays like he can, if he learns the offense quickly enough, it's really not absurd to say that he could possibly and should possibly be starting over guys like Chris Hogan and Philip Dorsett in this offense. And he's got way higher upside than those two players.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. It's hard to kind of project how productive he'll actually be, but even if he matches the level that he was playing at last season in Cleveland, he's probably the most talented wide receiver on this team, even more so than Julian Edelman. So I think that if this trade pans out the way the Patriots are hoping for it to pan out, there's your number one receiver right there. I mean, especially with Julian Edelman coming off the suspension, coming off the ACL injury, being 32 years old, we don't even know if he's going to look like the Julian Edelman of a couple years ago. So, yeah, I mean, I can easily envision, or maybe not easily envision, but I can definitely envision a situation where Josh Gordon is the Patriots' number one receiver over the second half of the season.
Yeah, and going into 2019, Josh Gordon is a restricted free agent after the season. That means that the Patriots, if they like him, if it pans out, they could either bring him back for a pretty small salary next season or get a second-round pick for him. I guess they could also slap a first-round tender on him. There's a number of different things they could do with him, but chances are they could either bring him back for short money or get something out of it. So even that alone, it was pretty smart to trade for the guy. If you give up a fifth-round pick for him, he does well in the system, then a team's willing to give up a first or second-round pick for him, then that's a huge win.
Yeah, to me, it's tough to find a legitimate drawback to this trade. I mean, again, unless you just think the culture fit is such a big deal, but I honestly don't. I mean, the Patriots have brought in players with troubled paths before, players who haven't been able to kind of stay on the straight and narrow earlier in their career. Some of those players haven't worked out, but a lot of those players have. So I think he's definitely worth taking a shot on.
All right, let's get into the Jaguars game. Lost 31-20. Patriots fans are very upset after this one, or there's a certain subset of Patriots fans who are very upset after this one. But I would advise you to calm down a little bit. Patriots are playing a very good team, Jaguars, on the road. It was 97 degrees, like we mentioned earlier, and the Patriots lost their best defensive player, Trey Flowers, in the first quarter with a concussion, and they lost Patrick Chung.
That was the first drive, right?
Yeah, first drive. Yeah. And they lost Patrick Chung after the first half with another concussion. So a lot of things were working against the Patriots in this game. It was probably a little bit more competitive than the score would indicate because the Patriots actually had some chances to come back in the game as well. I thought the Patriots defense played poorly, but I'm not ready to declare them a bad defense yet, because we've seen this a million times over the years with the Patriots, where they'll struggle in a game coming out of the gate early in the season. We saw it twice in 2014 with the Dolphins and Chiefs. We saw it twice in 2017 with the Chiefs and Panthers. So this isn't new ground. I think the Patriots can pull this back together. If they can't, then yeah, they've got a bad defense. But if they can, then we'd all look kind of stupid for just declaring this Patriots defense as being bad when it might just be a blip on the season's radar.
Yeah, especially after how much praise that defense got after the first week of the season with how well they played.
Now everyone wants to throw that game away like it didn't matter or something.
People are, especially Patriots fans, it seems like, are very selective with their praise and criticism of a team. I mean, after week 1, it was, yeah, they played well. Well, that's like temper expectations. After week 2, they play poorly. It's a disaster. I mean, this was a game that a lot of people going into the season expected the Patriots to lose. I think they entered the game, what were they, 1-point favorites or something like that? So
1 or 2 point favorites.
Yeah, so it's not like they went into this game as 2 touchdown favorites and got upset in Jacksonville. I mean, this is a Jacksonville team that was in the AFC Championship game last year. Probably should have won the AFC Championship game last year if they didn't kind of crap themselves down the stretch there. Brought pretty much everybody back. Blake Bortles actually had one of the best games I've seen him play. Yep. They've got some wide receivers who kind of emerged.
Keelan Cole's nasty.
Keelan Cole is nasty. He made that incredible Odell Beckham catch over Eric Rowe. So this is a very good Jaguars team. If they played again, even if it is down in Jacksonville or if it's up here, I think it would be almost a pick 'em again. I think these are pretty evenly matched teams, especially if the Patriots are fully healthy on defense, if they do have Trey Flowers in there, if they kind of clean up some of the crossing route nonsense that really hurt them in this game. I don't think this game is any big indictment, I guess, along the lines that you were saying, any big indictment on the Patriots defense or the Patriots as a whole. It's what they do a lot. I mean, they have one of these duds early in the season. Now it's all about turning the page in the future. Again, if the next 4, 5, 6 weeks continues to look a little dicey like this, then you'll have some problems. But I mean, I think we all overreacted to that Panthers loss last season, and
Absolutely.
then the Patriots immedately turned around and won like 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's wait a little while. This team just played in the Super Bowl, so this is still a pretty solid team.
Flowers and Chung both were not at practice on Wednesday, so we'll see if they can suit up on Sunday night against the Lions. Patriots do have a few additional hours because it's a night game to see if they can return from those concussions. So we'll see how that goes. But back on the Jaguars game for a second, I think that looking at the offense a little bit, things weren't perfect on offense. I thought that Chris Hogan came on pretty strong at the end there. The fact that the Patriots were not able to hit Rob Gronkowski very often in this game, I think that just makes the Josh Gordon signing even more notable, because if Josh Gordon and Rob Gronkowski are on the field together, the Lions or whatever team the Patriots are playing can't double cover both of them. So I think that could either free up Gronkowski, free up Gordon, or really free up another player who just goes completely uncovered on the field. But I do have some concerns about the Patriots running game, I would say, after week 2, just because Sony Michel had one nice 15-yard run. Rex Burke had really kind of struggled. Sony Michel didn't do much beyond that 15-yard run. So, I don't know. I just have some questions about the running game after that week.
Yeah, I think the Patriots are kind of hoping, and I would assume that this is probably correct, that that Sony Michel, this being his first game, the fact that he missed all the preseason, missed week 1. This is his first game since the national championship. So you would expect him to have a little bit of rust coming in and not be that dynamite player right from the get-go. They did try to give him the ball a lot. He had a stat line that was similar to some of the ones we saw from Rex Burkhead last season. Yeah. I think he played 13 snaps, touched the ball on 11 of them, and was targeted for an incomplete pass on the 12th. So they really tried to get him the ball while he was in. I think he had as many carries as Rex Burkhead and James White combined in this game. I think you'll see some improvement from him going forward.
I think they were both rusty. They both missed the preseason.
I think you'll see both of those players kind of settle in a little bit moving forward. And it works in their favor that Detroit's defense has just been horrendous against the run this season. They gave up 169 rushing yards to the Jets in week 1, 190 to San Francisco this past week. I saw a stat earlier today. They've given up 51 more rushing yards than any other team in the NFL right now. I think it's something like 5.6 yards per carry. So they've been very bad. I mean, with Matt Patricia's defense, you kind of expect that to improve over the season, but that should be it bodes well for the Patriots. But if they can't really, if they struggle again against this Lions defense that has really not been able to stop anybody on the ground this season, then they might have some issues there that they need to fix.
And I really just thought the Patriots, they really struggled coming out of the gate. What they were trailing 21-3, and it felt to some degree that after the Patriots got down so far, the Patriots weren't going to show everything maybe on offense and defense.
Yeah, you could say that.
Rex Burkhead really only played the first and fourth quarters. He played a little bit in the third quarter, but really did not play much in the middle of the game. Patriots only ran one play with their 2 running back personnel grouping, and that was after running that grouping 10 times in week 1. So I don't know. I mean, I think there was more the Patriots could have done, but after they fell down so far to begin with, that I don't know, everything just kind of went to hell for them. But at the same time, there were definitely some plays in there where they could have mounted a comeback. There was the Kyle Van Noy interception. There was a really nice 27-yard catch and run by James White. There was the Stephon Gilmore forced fumble and recovery. Yeah. So there was definitely plays mixed in there, but things just kept going poorly for the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have that Dante Fowler strip sack after
right.
the Van Noy interception, the Patriots score a touchdown on that drive. They're down 3-4 going into with still about 12 or what was that, like 9 minutes left in the game.
It went the Brady interception, the Fowler strip sack, and the Patriots actually got the ball back, but it was deep within their own territory, and they punted at the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
Because James White initially picked up a first down, and then it was reviewed. They brought the ball back. It was 4th and about 6 inches, and Bill Belichick decided to punt the ball away. And then a couple plays later was when Blake Bortles hit D.D. Westbrook for that 61-yard touchdown. That pretty much sealed the game, even though there was still 7 or 8 minutes left. But if that Fowler strip sack doesn't happen, if the Patriots even get a field goal from that drive, you're looking at a 1-possession game with a good amount of clock left, and it's a totally different game. But, I mean, that Jaguars defense will do that to you. It was only a matter of time before they got to Tom Brady.
Yeah, and there was some other plays mixed in there as well. There's a play where Cordero Patterson caught the ball and just immediately slipped and fell. That could have been a touchdown drive.
That was a 3rd and 4 or something like that.
Yeah, they had to settle for a field goal on that drive. So there was definitely some stuff in there. Patriots did bench cornerback Eric Rowe during the game. He let up 2 20-plus yard catches in the first quarter, and they yanked him out of the game. Jason McCourty came in for him. Rowe came back in for 1 play, let up another 22-yard catch to Keelan Cole. So it was probably the right move for the Patriots to yank Eric Rowe, even though it did seem like kind of a quick hook at the time. But now we don't really know who the other starting cornerback is going to be this week against the Lions. I guess we can move into that Lions matchup using that as a transition, because the Lions have 2 big wide receivers on the perimeter. They've got Kenny Golladay, who's 6'4". They've got Marvin Jones, who's 6'1", and they've got Golden Tate, who's their slot receiver. He's about 6 feet. So since Golladay, I think you can assume that Stephon Gilmore's going to match up against Marvin Jones. So if you need a cornerback to match up against Kenny Golladay, if it's not going to be Stephon Gilmore, you probably need a bigger cornerback. Eric Rowe is 6'1", Jason McCourty's 5'11", and J.C. Jackson's only 5'10". So even though Rowe did get the quick hook, even though he did get benched, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he actually starts again in week 3.
Yeah, and I don't think it should be out of the realm of possibility, because Eric Rowe has played, up to this past game, he had been one of the Patriots' most kind of consistent, reliable defensive players since really the start of training camp. Yeah. He had a very good summer, was solid against the Texans in week 1. And then I thought he got a quick hook, as you said. He allowed those 2 plays to Keelan Cole. One of them, the one we discussed earlier, which was a ridiculous catch that even the best coverage there couldn't have stopped. And then he got burned for a touchdown, but still ended up being kind of right there in on the play. It wasn't like he was trailing it by 5 or 10 yards or anything. Got put back in the game later, gave up another one, so it guess it kind of made sense, but it was a little weird to see him get that quick of a hook after how well he had played. So I don't think that it's necessarily a permanent benching, or they now have Jason McCourty in there until Jason McCourty screws up or anything. I could very easily see that changing this week, especially because if Patrick Chung can't play in this game, and he did not practice today, you might even see Jason McCourty get a little bit of time at safety, because the Patriots don't really have a backup safety beyond their 3 starters in Devin McCourty, Duron Harmon, and Patrick Chung. The Patriots will obviously go away from that big nickel because they can't really play that when Patrick Chung's not available. But the next guy behind those 3 on the depth chart is Nate Ebner, who has played, 25 defensive snaps over the last 4 years. So I think you could see Jason McCourty kind of be moved around that secondary a lot this weekend if Chung's not in there.
Yeah, and I do think that if Chung can't play, Patriots usually play their nickel with those 3 safeties, like you said. I think that they would go to a 3 cornerback look in their nickel defense. I think it would be Stephon Gilmore at cornerback, Devin McCourty and Deron Harmon at safety, Jonathan Jones in the slot, and then that other perimeter cornerback. And, I mean, I'm sure that some of you guys have heard before, Bill Belichick tends to bench cornerbacks. We saw it in the Super Bowl with Malcolm Butler, but that actually...
Wait, Malcolm Butler got benched?
That actually wasn't the first time Butler got benched during the 2017 season. He got benched for Eric Rowe in Week 2 last season against the Saints, and then he was back to starting in Week 3. Stephon Gilmore even got benched for Rowe midway through Week 4.
It was the beginning of the second half of the Panthers game, and then Eric Rowe got hurt about 2 minutes in, so Gilmore came back in.
So Gilmore came back in. And then, I mean, in the past, we've seen Logan Ryan benched before. I think he was benched during the 2016 season, regained his starting role. So Belichick
Kyle Harrington back in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Kyle Harrington too. So Bill Belichick just has a quick hook with cornerbacks, and he's not afraid to go back to them. I think that, he might even view it as like a confidence issue, that if a cornerback has lost his confidence out on the field, it's probably better to just put someone else in there and then have that player restart, whether it's the next week or maybe, a couple weeks down the line. So I don't know. I know that Patriots fans hate Eric Rowe right now because he gave up the 3 catches, but we liked what we saw from him in training camp. He was very good in the preseason. He had a good Week 1 despite giving up a touchdown. So, I don't know. I think that there's definitely still hope for Eric Rowe to be a starting cornerback in this defense.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, when Jason McCourty came in, he was fine. He had an okay game, but I didn't see him come in and solidify his spot with the way he played on Sunday.
Even though Bill Belichick did say he was really solid in that game, right?
I think really solid is a bit of a stretch.
I
mean, he was okay. He made a nice tackle in the backfield on, I think it was a screen pass or a swing pass or something like
lateral,
that. Yeah, and so he was fine, but he wasn't really noticeable out there. So I definitely don't think that he played so well that he locked down that job. So I think it's definitely I wouldn't be surprised if either of those guys starts this weekend.
I don't think the Patriots run defense has not been great this season. They definitely struggled a little bit more in Week 1 against the Texans, and then Leonard Fournette did not play for the Jaguars, but the Patriots allowed TJ Yeldon, his backup, to rush for 5.8 yards per carry, and that was on a bum ankle. TJ Yeldon actually wasn't even practicing today for the Jaguars. So I don't think this game against the Lions, though, is too scary of a matchup at running back. LeGarrette Blount really hasn't been getting it going for the Lions. Kerryon Johnson, their rookie, hasn't done much. Theo Riddick is really only a passing option, so this might be a good game for the Patriots' run defense to actually get back on track.
Yeah, theoretically it should be. LeGarrette Blount has really struggled this season. I think he's averaging something like 2.9 yards per carry. He started both games but has only carried the ball 12 times and has also been unable to finish both of those games. He left the first one with an injury, and then he got kicked out of the Niners game after he ran on the field and leveled a 49ers defender who hit Matt Stafford a little bit late. So it seems like LeGarrette Blount is, well, I guess I can't say that because he did have a solid season in Philly last year, but it seems like when he's away from the Patriots, just crazy stuff tends to happen with him.
It all kind of unravels for him a little bit. And then, I don't know, I mean, I do find this matchup against the Lions a little bit intriguing just because we've seen how Matt Patricia defenses start before. Like we mentioned, we saw it in 2014. We saw it in 2017. So, I don't know. I mean, this Lions team could bounce back at any point. I don't think they're very talented. I think that the fact that Darius Slay does have the concussion, and if he does miss this game, then that's, a huge loss for them. But it's always possible when Matt Patricia is leading your defense that your team's just going to turn it around out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he's also a new head coach. This is going to be his 3rd game ever as a head coach. It typically takes these kind of guys a little while to get settled. I mean, Bill Belichick went 5-11 in his first season as a head coach. So it takes these guys a little bit of time to really implement their system, really kind of get acclimated themselves to life as a head coach. So I don't think this Lions team is going to go 2-14 or 3-13 this year. I don't think they're particularly good. I don't think they'll really contend for a playoff spot, especially with the Vikings and Packers in that division. But I definitely don't think they're as bad as they showed Week 1 against the Jets. And they did look significantly better against the 49ers, even though they weren't really in that game for most of the day before they scored those 2 late touchdowns. So I think you could end up seeing a competitive game this weekend. I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game, though, especially if Josh Gordon plays to any level of his potential. I think you could see a big game from the Patriots passing game.
Definitely. And let's talk about, I guess, reasonable expectations for Josh Gordon in this game. A report came out yesterday, I believe it was, on Tuesday, that Gordon is expected to play against the Lions, which is kind of funny since that was apparently before he was even officially added to the roster, or as Bill Belichick said today, totally added to the roster.
I think the word was expected to play in a limited package or a limited role or something like that. Did you see that out there?
Yeah, and I think that's all he could really handle. I think that when Philip Dorsett was traded to this team before Week 1 last year, he did not suit up in Week 1. These wide receivers that we've seen come in recently, Chad Hansen did not play when he came here. Corey Coleman did not play when he came here. Benny Fowler was cut before he even had a chance. So I think that, as little as possible, maybe Kenny Britt. Did Kenny Britt play in his first game last year?
He did play. Yeah, he played against against Steelers, I think. Yeah, he played against the Steelers. He had 1 catch. Didn't do a whole lot.
I think Michael Floyd might have played in his first week with the Patriots when he signed.
But both of those were kind of they were the 4th or 5th option in there. Played 5-10 snaps.
Right. So I think that's probably what I would expect out of Gordon, to really only play anywhere from 5 to 10 snaps. The Lions certainly will take notice, like I said, when he's on the field. So maybe even just being used as a decoy, he might be more valuable than some of the other offensive playmakers for the Patriots. But I don't know. Anything more than a couple of catches, I think, would be unreasonable expectations for Gordon in Week 1. But I've kind of said all along, with whatever wide receiver the Patriots bring in this season to temper expectations, I do think Gordon is a little bit different. I think this is different than bringing in your Corey Colemans or Chad Hansons or Amara Darbos or those type of guys. I do think that given Gordon's raw skills, his potential ranks much higher, despite the fact that it could take him a while to learn the offense.
Yeah, I think if Josh Gordon sticks around for the remainder of the season, he's going to be a legitimate contributor. I mean, I think what will hold Josh Gordon back potentially would be just off-field stuff and just kind of being able to integrate into the culture and keep himself out of trouble and all that kind of thing. I think that if he stays on this team throughout the rest of the season, I think he's going to be a pretty significant part of the offense. Because I think if he can't get it, they're going to know pretty quickly, and they're going to get rid of him. So I think if he does stay, then I think you can expect some big numbers for him. I'm not expecting 2013 numbers or anything resembling those, but I think he could end up being one of the more productive wide receivers on this team.
Before we wrap this up, just getting back into that compensation again, because I was just kind of thinking of something. I don't know when the Patriots cut Brandon Bolden, I don't know that they planned on bringing him back. I don't know what the situation was there, but they cut Brandon Bolden and then claimed Amara Darbo and Chad Hansen off waivers. So when you're looking at compensation for Josh Gordon, a 5th-round pick, when the Patriots basically traded Brandon Bolden for Amara Darbo, who lasted like a day on the roster, a 5th-round pick really is not that much. And I know the Patriots drafted Marcus Cannon, they drafted Joe Cardona, they drafted Matthew Slater in the 5th round, so they actually have had some hits there, but they barely ever draft in the 5th round, and it really wasn't a big price to pay for.
Yeah, and if you look at if you expect the Patriots' 5th-round pick to be a pretty late 5th-round pick, and you expect the Browns' 7th-round pick to be a pretty high 7th-round pick, that's a difference of, 40, 50 spots maybe. That late in the draft, I think it's more than worth it.
And Patriots, the reasoning that some people think the Patriots have for not liking 5th-round picks is that you can't really get a starter in the 5th round. So basically any player that you get from the 5th to 7th round has similar value, and you're spending more money contractually on a player drafted in the 5th round than you would on a player in the 6th or 7th round. So I think that kind of plays into the Patriots' decision to constantly want to move those 5th-round picks, because they feel like they can probably get that same player later in the draft. And even this year when they drafted Juwan Bentley, it's certainly possible they could have got him in the 6th or 7th round and just, paid him less this season, really.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point.
All right, well, that will do it for this week's NESN Patriots podcast. Tune in next week. We will talk about the Lions game and preview the Patriots game against the Dolphins. You can follow me on Twitter at Doug Kyde. You can follow Zach on Twitter at ZachCoxNESN. keep it on NESN.com for all of your Patriots coverage.
Big thanks to producer Mark for standing by and producing this episode for us.
You got it, guys.
Nice job, Mark.